Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Underneath the Hood with Glen and Dave. I'm Dave Martin. I'm the owner of Martin's Auto Repair down in Central Phoenix.
And I'm Glenn Hayward, the proud owner of GoodWorks Auto Repair in sunny Tempe, Arizona.
And we are here changing the perception of the auto repair industry by going behind the scenes and under the hood.
In these podcasts, we're going to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of owning a small business in the auto repair industry from an insider's point of view.
So let's get started. Well, hey, Glenn.
How you doing, Dave? I'm doing great, man.
Hey, customers ask all the time, why should I spend money on a pre-purchase inspection?
And my answer is, why not spend money on a pre-purchase inspection? And the reason why we insist that these get done, it's not because we make a boatload of money. We break even on these things. We're trying to save the consumer.
It's very time-consuming to do it.
It is.
Yeah.
It takes well over an hour because you're hooking it up to the computer, you're driving the vehicle, you're pulling the wheels off, you're looking at the brakes, the suspension, all the components that can cost you a ton of money.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and just think of the amount of money, and I know at my shop, we've saved clients a ton of money on pre-purchase inspection. I have one story that this one stuck with me, and I don't care if the dealership tells you it's certified, not certified. It doesn't mean anything to me. We had a vehicle in our shop that only had about 45,000 miles on it. We lifted the car up, and underneath it, the transmission where it bolts together, where it's actually put together, was leaking. The struts were completely blown out. It looked like somebody that drove it, they drove it like they stole it. And
That's surprising at that low a mileage.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that now because sometimes people feel safe if they buy a car that's quote-unquote low mileage. What do they have to lose, right?
Right, exactly. And sometimes they're just abused. The car was abused. And, you know, so she took it back to the dealership, and they made it right, which was good on their part. But she could have avoided all that if she had just brought it in before she bought it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the problem. You know, pre-purchase is exactly what we say, P-R-E, which means before you spend your money, before you make the commitment, before it's too late to either return the vehicle. And if you buy it from a private party, you're done. The deal is over. You can't go back to that person or that thing because most of these meetings take place in a dark parking lot somewhere.
Well, and you're right. The thing of it is basically you don't have any. You have a lot less leverage when you already given them your hard-earned money.
You have zero. And,
yeah.
And I think in most every state in the United States, you buy a private party sold vehicle. And guess what?
You're
that's
on your own.
Once your money is out of your hand, so is any rights you have to try to reclaim anything.
Yeah, and we can lift that car up, look underneath it. We can, you know, and they can really make a car look really, really good from the outside.
But we call it putting lipstick on the pig.
Yeah, and it's exactly what they can make that car look amazing from the outside. But boy, once you lift it up and you kind of start lifting the hood and look underneath the vehicle and start to really look at things, you start to see there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, people put new tires on and everything. That's a nominal expense, and I always am interested to see what brand of tires you put on there. It's the cheapest junk that you can put on. They're shiny, they're new, there's lots of tread depth, so people don't understand that there's different qualities. We're not going to go into that, but as professionals, we look at these things when we do these inspections, and we can tell if someone put on good parts, cheap parts, just something to get the car to run and be sold.
Well, obviously, that's one of the things when they're trying to sell a car, they don't want to put a ton of money into it because it cuts back on their profit. And the biggest concern that we have at our shop when we get a car in there that a customer's buying is safety. When you look underneath these cars, and if they've been in a wreck, a good-sized wreck where they weren't put back the way they were originally designed, the next time that car crumbles or next time it's in a wreck, it's probably not going to crumble the way that car was designed. You know, they crash test all these cars, and they want to make sure that basically the driver and the passengers are all safe inside the car when they get in an accident. So you want to make sure that car crumbles the way they originally designed it and the way they crash tested it.
Right. In fact, I had a guy come in about 2 weeks ago, and he says, "Can you come out and look at my car?" He was Hispanic, so we spoke in Spanish together, and he says, well, what's going on with this car? Can you fix this? And both of his tires were leaning, one at about a 30-degree angle and another one at about a 20-degree angle on the rear end of the vehicle. Someone had hit that car so hard that it bent both wheels in the same direction, and his tires were wearing out funny. And he looked at it, and of course there was about 2 gallons of Bondo, body putty in the thing, and a cheap paint job. And this guy bought the vehicle. I mean, this was a done deal. He could do nothing about it. He bought it from some guy about 50 miles from here, drove it in, and he needed a whole rear axle assembly and whatever else was attached to it because it was all bent and there was no way to fix it.
Yeah, those are horror stories, and I've had customers that have went to the auction and bought a car at an auction, didn't even make it home, the engine blew up. And so, I mean, you really to save yourself money in the long run, getting a pre-purchase inspection and paying somebody to do a good pre-purchase inspection is well worth your money, because it's going to save you in the long run. And then also too, the other side, we really haven't talked about this. It gives you negotiating power to basically get a better deal on the car. If you know that you're going to buy this car and you need to put $1,000 into this car immediately after that, you can negotiate with the seller and maybe cut it down $500, maybe even a full $1,000, whatever. You can work that out.
Right, and what's important too is if you're going to have a pre-purchase inspection done, go to a shop that does digital inspections, because now it's not just the mechanic's word, the technician's word, or that particular shop's word. You have pictures, you have evidence. This is leaking, this is cracked, this is broken, this is whatever, whatever the issue is. You have physical photo proof that this car has issues, and if they say, well, I'll just sell it to someone else who's not as smart as you, that's okay.
Yeah.
You just dodged a big bullet there and a lot of money out of your wallet. But like Dave was saying, you have leverage now. This car needs about $2,000 worth of repairs. Will you at least meet me halfway, or you may be selling this car because you didn't want to invest the money, but I'm not going to buy a car at full price, from you, and then have to put another $2,000 because now it's less than what the car is valued at.
And most cars, I'll be honest with you, most cars that we look at need some sort of maintenance or some sort of maybe some minor repairs. Almost every car does. And the reason is think about this, the person that's selling that car usually has an inclination that they're going to sell that car a year, at least for I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it. You know how many times you get a customer coming in going, yeah, I'm selling the car. And then 6 months later, they still got the car.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, they still got the car. So a year later, they finally decide to sell the car. Well, they haven't done anything for a whole year on the car. You know what I mean?
And
so
now it's in that much worse.
Right. So now it
condition.
needs some maintenance, and it may need a few repairs. So you're not going to, most used cars, you are going to need to do something to it. But you want to make sure that you have the knowledge and have the information so you can either get a good price on the car, and you're not going to buy a car at top dollar and then have to put $1,000 in it. And after you spend all your hard-earned money, you may not have that $1,000 to fix the car, and you don't want to do it that way.
Right, or you end up having to finance that at these ridiculous finance rates these days, 25, 30, 40% on some of these plans, because you don't have the immediate money, but the car needs to be immediately fixed, and now you're going to pay another 50% over the cost of the repair because you had to finance it.
Right, and when we went through that, the supply chain issue with a lot of those cars, there was a lot of there was a lot less used vehicles on the market, and they were getting top dollar for them. So the consumer just needs to have the information. It's like you wouldn't go into a store and buy anything blindfolded. You want to look at it, you want to see it, and you want to know what you're buying, and you want the right information. And really, if a lot of people will tell me, well, my dad was a mechanic, or my brother's a mechanic, or my neighbor's a mechanic. Well, the only thing that I say about that is that whether you're a mechanic or not, going out and looking at the vehicle in a parking lot and versus looking at a shop where you can lift the vehicle up, it's a lot different.
Yeah, well, and in a lot of cases, as you mentioned, my dad was a mechanic, my brother was a mechanic, but what level of expertise did they have? Were they trained? Can they do the the technology side of things, or are they just nut and bolt people? If this car has electronic or electric issues, are they able to diagnose them properly and fix them? Or are they just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just replace everything? And do they have the skills or the tools to do it? Those are big questions today because the technology, the composition of vehicles, their engines, and the drivetrains in general, even suspension and brakes are so complicated and sophisticated today that some guy goes in his backyard and thinks he's going to pull his brakes apart.
Yeah.
And he ends up having the vehicle towed in because he can't even collapse the pistons because you need a scan tool to do it.
And we've seen some of those horror stories too, you know. And people have asked me. They said, "Hey, will you come out and look at this car?" Well, I tell them I'm really not doing you any service by going out and looking at the car in a parking lot because
No.
I'm not going to be able to give you the information that you need to make a good decision, and I'm going to miss things because you're not going to get the car up in the air. And what you mentioned about the technology, you can't bring all that technology with you to a parking lot. So it's very important.
At the end of the day, I mean, if you say, yeah, it looks like a good car, and then it turns out not to be a good car,
Right.
now you look like a schmuck.
Right,
You know? I mean,
absolutely,
that's no
absolutely.
good.
And we've seen some cars come in there where people have tried to, you know, kind of half-ass them, you know, and not fix it the correct way, and try to, you know, baling wire and. You know, and once you start to see that, that scares the crud out of me because I start to go, okay, if they started doing this kind of stuff on the car, what else did they do? Now you're really looking at it going, holy moly, this is not good.
Yeah, sometimes the best cars are cars that, you know, are owned by elderly people and stuff like that. People go to estate sales and they try to buy vehicles. They're low mileage and so on, but that's no guarantee that that vehicle has had TLC just because it's been parked in a garage. They may not have done the maintenance because the places that they were going to have their car serviced, they think, I don't drive it that much. I'll just get the oil change, and they don't do the transmission fluid and the brake fluid and the other essentials. So, don't think of that as a way of foregoing having an inspection done. Again, we don't offer these inspections out of greed. We break even on these things, but we're really concerned about the consumer buying a vehicle and then coming in and saying, hey, I want to have this vehicle inspected, and you find $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of stuff that hadn't been done, and then the customer starts crying in your lobby.
Yeah. Well, and then it's no fun for us too. If the customer buys a real, you know, piece of junk, they're at a shop every week. And it's no fun for us either. You know, the thing of it is it gets frustrating for the client, and it also gets frustrating for us because, you know, we want you to have a good vehicle that's reliable, and we don't want to be towing this thing. You know what I mean? We don't want to, you know,
Exactly.
people think broken down cars make us happy. Really, broken down cars don't really make us that happy because we try to schedule our days to get as many clients taken care of as we possibly can. And then when the tow truck brings cars in,
we know it's probably going to be a pretty big job. And
well,
it's
it throws a
gonna
monkey wrench into the whole thing. Now we got to kind of rearrange our schedule. So we would just as soon have you call us and say, hey, we want to bring the car in next week. We want to get this done or that done. It's so much better and so much easier and less stress for us to be able to schedule that in versus having you on the back of a tow truck. Because we know your car's important to you. We understand that you got to take your kids to soccer practice. You got school. You got work. You got all these things going on, and your car is very important, and we try to get it in and out as quick as possible. But when the car breaks down, like I said, it just creates a little bit more stress for us.
Right. And America in general, I mean, we have, I think it's 3.5 cars per citizen here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the car thing is here to stay. People aren't reducing the number of cars they drive or the fact that they're going to, you know, continue or not to continue or take public transportation. Those arguments were settled decades ago. But when you do purchase a vehicle, you want to make sure that every dollar you spend is a dollar well spent and not wasting it on someone else's junk that they're trying to unload on you. So the pre-purchase inspection is a big deal.
Very important.
We believe in doing them because we're really rescuing you from a possible problem. Hey, and if the car is good, we give it the blessing, and it goes out the door, and we're glad that you fell upon a person who was honest about their car.
Yeah.
They took good care of it, and they're wanting to move on to a newer, different type of vehicle.
Hey, Glenn, how much should a pre-purchase inspection cost?
Well, at our shop, it's $129, and that is a comprehensive, wheels off, hood open, diagnostic, machine hooked up to it to make sure that there's not some pending codes or something that someone covered up. So $129. How about you?
Same with me. Yeah, we're at $129 for it. It's a money-saving service.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. Like you said, it's very comprehensive. We really kind of looked the car over with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure that you're getting a good, reliable vehicle, because that's important.
Yeah, we make it a value to the customer because our normal labor rate is a lot higher than that. But again, we're trying to do a double service to our customers by having them bring the car in for their daughter, their son, their whatever, whoever the car is going to. It may be for them personally, but it's important to have that protective shield us between them and the person who's selling them the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Glenn, the thing of it is it definitely takes a fair amount of time. It isn't a huge money maker for the shop, but our goal in the end is to make sure that you have a really safe and reliable vehicle, because safety is number one, obviously, but reliability is fairly important. We're all busy, and we sure as heck don't have time to have broken down cars.
Absolutely. So thanks again for joining us today. We'll see you all next time. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks.